Hello, dear listeners. Welcome once again to the English Globe. We are so happy that you are here with us today. My name is Adam, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, Julia. We want to thank you for tuning in, whether you are listening from your home, from your office, during your walk, or maybe even while traveling. Wherever you are now part of our growing global community of learners, thinkers, and curious minds who want to understand the world a little better each day.
Yes, hello everyone, and thank you for joining us. We are really excited about today's episode because we will be talking about a very important subject in international relations and global politics. The title of today's discussion is Military Competition, China's Rise versus America's Dominance. Now, this might sound like a heavy and complex topic, but don't worry. Adam and I are here to guide you step by step, using clear and simple English, so that everyone can follow along and understand the main ideas.
Exactly, Julia. We want to make sure that this conversation is both educational and easy to follow, no matter what level of English you are learning. So, why is this topic important? Well, when we look at the modern world, the relationship between the United States and China is one of the most influential factors shaping global security, trade, technology, and even the balance of power. Both countries are strong, powerful, and highly influential, and their competition affects not only their own people, but also almost every other nation on Earth.
That's right. Some of you might be asking, why focus on military competition? The answer is simple. Military power is one of the main tools that countries use to protect their national interests. It is not the only factor. Of course, economics, culture, and diplomacy also matter. But when we talk about safety, defense, and influence, the military plays a central role. The United States has long been seen as the dominant global military power. But in recent decades, China has been rising quickly, modernizing its forces, and seeking to expand its influence, especially in Asia.
Now, we want to be very clear from the beginning. This podcast is not about taking sides. We are not here to say that one country is good and the other is bad. We are not here to celebrate one and criticize the other. Instead, we want to look at the facts as they are, present both perspectives, and help you, our dear listeners, to understand the dynamics of this competition. Our goal is to give you information and ideas that you can think about, discuss with your friends, and use in your own learning journey.
And speaking of our listeners, this is a good time to pause and ask for a little support. If you are enjoying this podcast, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the English Globe on YouTube, and don't forget to click on the notification bell so that you never miss a new episode. Your support really helps us grow and continue creating these kinds of discussions for you. Every like, every comment, and every subscription makes a huge difference, and we are very grateful for your help.
Yes, thank you so much. And while you are at it, we would love to hear from you in the comments. Please let us know where you are listening from. Are you in Asia? Are you in Africa? Are you in Europe or the Middle East? Maybe you are in North America or South America. We know that our listeners come from many different countries, and it is always inspiring to see how truly global our community has become. So, please share your location and say hello. We really enjoy reading your comments.
We also invite you to share your opinions about today's topic. What do you think about the military competition between the United States and China? Do you feel that it is dangerous for the world? Or do you see it as something natural between two big powers? Do you think one country has an advantage, or do you believe they will remain balanced? There are no wrong answers here. We are simply curious about what you think, and we hope to create a space where respectful and thoughtful discussion can happen.
So, in today's episode, we will take you on a journey through history, strategy, economics, and technology. We will look at how the United States became the world's strongest military power after World War II, how China has been catching up in recent decades, and what this means for the future. We will talk about military budgets, new technologies like cyber warfare and artificial intelligence, and the strategic goals that each country is trying to achieve. And we will always keep in mind the bigger question: what does this rivalry mean for the rest of the world?
That's a great overview, Adam. And again, we want to remind our listeners that this will be a balanced conversation. We are not pushing any agenda. Instead, we want to give you the tools to think critically and form your own opinions. Remember, understanding the world is not about choosing one side or the other. It is about learning how to see the bigger picture. And for English learners, this topic is also a great way to expand vocabulary related to politics, history, and global affairs.
So let's get ready for an interesting discussion. We will begin by looking back at history, how the United States became a global military leader after World War II, and how China started its path toward modernization. But before we jump into that, once again, please like, subscribe, and comment below. Your participation is what keeps the English globe alive and strong. We are not just talking to you, we are talking with you, and your voices matter in this global conversation.
That's exactly right. This is more than just a podcast. It is a community of learners and thinkers. So welcome again to the English Globe. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being part of this journey. Now, let's move into our first deep dive: the historical background of US dominance and China's rise. This will set the stage for everything else we are going to talk about today.
To understand today's military competition, we first need to look at history. The United States did not become the world's strongest military overnight. After World War II ended in 1945, much of Europe and Asia was left devastated. Cities were destroyed, economies were in ruins, and many countries struggled just to recover. But the United States came out of the war stronger than before. Its industries were intact, its economy was booming, and its military had proven itself as a global power.
Yes, and one of the most important developments at that time was America's use of nuclear weapons in 1945. The atomic bomb not only ended the war in the Pacific, but also showed the world that the US had unmatched technological power. This positioned America as the leading superpower in the post-war era. Along with its allies, the US played a central role in creating new international organizations like the United Nations and NATO, which further solidified its leadership role on the global stage.
Meanwhile, China's situation after World War II was very different. China had been fighting a long and exhausting war against Japan, and after Japan was defeated, the country faced a civil war between the nationalists and the communists. In 1949, the Communist Party, led by Mao Zedong, established the People's Republic of China. At that time, China was very poor and weak compared to the United States. Its military was large in numbers, but it was outdated, lacked modern equipment, and relied heavily on Soviet support during the early years.
That's right, Adam. During the Cold War, the world was largely divided between two superpowers: the United States and the Soviet Union. China, for much of this period, was not considered a major military competitor to the US. The focus was mainly on the US-Soviet rivalry. However, China did begin to develop its own nuclear weapons program in the 1960s, which gave it a new level of importance. Having nuclear weapons meant that China could no longer be ignored in the global balance of power, even if it was still far behind the US and the Soviet Union. Yes, and while the US was building military bases around the world and strengthening alliances, China was going through periods of internal struggle, like the Cultural Revolution in the 1960s and 1970s. These political campaigns slowed down China's economic and technological development, which also limited its military growth. By contrast, the United States continued to advance in areas such as aircraft carriers, advanced fighter jets, and global logistics, all of which gave it unmatched reach and influence. But things began to change in the late 1970s and 1980s when China started its process of reform and opening under Deng Xiaoping. These reforms focused first on the economy, improving industry, agriculture, and trade. As China's economy began to grow rapidly, its leaders also realized that a stronger economy could support a stronger military. Slowly, China began investing more in modernizing its armed forces, though it was still decades behind the US in terms of overall strength and capability.
In contrast, the United States during the late Cold War period was engaged in an arms race with the Soviet Union. America invested heavily in advanced technologies like stealth aircraft, precision-guided weapons, and satellite systems. When the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, the U.S. emerged as the world's only superpower. For the next 2 decades, America faced no real military challenger. It had the largest defense budget, the most powerful navy, and the ability to project power almost anywhere in the world.
Yes, and during this same period, China was quietly working on building its economy into one of the strongest in the world. With rapid economic growth, China gained the resources to increase military spending significantly. By the early 2000s, China began to modernize its navy, air force, and missile programs. It focused especially on areas like anti-ship missiles and cyber capabilities, which could challenge America's advantage in Asia. This marked the beginning of what we now call China's rise as a serious military power.
So, to summarize, the United States built its dominance through decades of technological leadership, global alliances, and unmatched economic strength, especially after World War II. China, on the other hand, started from a much weaker position, but has been catching up rapidly over the past 40 years, thanks to economic reforms and sustained military modernization. Understanding this historical background helps us see why today's competition is so intense. It is the result of long-term developments, not something that happened overnight.
Exactly. History shows us that both the US and China have followed different paths to reach where they are today. America's dominance was born out of global war and decades of Cold War rivalry, while China's rise has been driven by economic transformation and a determination to modernize. As we move forward in this discussion, we will look more closely at where each country stands today, what strengths they have, what challenges they face, and how their military competition affects the rest of the world.
Now that we have looked at the historical background, let's turn our attention to the present. The United States is still widely considered the most powerful military force in the world. One of the clearest indicators of this is its defense budget. Every year, the U.S. spends hundreds of billions of dollars on its military, more than the next several countries combined. This massive investment allows the U.S. to maintain advanced technology, a global network of bases, and a military presence on nearly every continent.
Yes, and those bases are very important. The United States has more than 700 military facilities located outside its own borders, spread across dozens of countries. These bases give America the ability to respond quickly to crises, whether they happen in Europe, the Middle East, Asia, or elsewhere. It means that the US does not just defend its homeland, it also plays the role of a global security provider. Many allies rely on this presence for their own safety, which strengthens America's influence worldwide.
Another aspect of U.S. power is its Navy. The U.S. Navy operates a large fleet of aircraft carriers, which are sometimes described as floating cities. Each carrier can launch dozens of fighter jets and support a wide range of military operations. No other country has as many carriers as the U.S., and this gives America a unique ability to project power across the oceans. Whether in the Atlantic, Pacific, or Indian Ocean, U.S. carriers serve as a symbol of American presence and a reminder of its military reach.
The Air Force is equally impressive. The U.S. Air Force has some of the most advanced aircraft in the world, including stealth fighters like the F-22 and F-35. These planes are designed to avoid radar detection, giving them a huge advantage in modern warfare. The U.S. also invests heavily in long-range bombers, drones, and refueling aircraft, which allow its forces to operate far from home. Combined with advanced satellites and communication systems, this air power ensures that the United States can act quickly and effectively in almost any situation.
We should also mention the role of nuclear weapons. The U.S. maintains a nuclear triad, which means it has 3 different ways to launch nuclear weapons: land-based missiles, submarines, and strategic bombers. This system ensures that the country could respond to any nuclear attack, making it a very strong deterrent. While nuclear weapons are not meant to be used lightly, their existence shapes the global balance of power, and America's arsenal remains one of the most advanced and reliable in the world.
Another factor that gives the US military its strength is its alliances. NATO, for example, is a military alliance between the United States, Canada, and many European countries. Together, they represent a powerful force that deters potential threats. In Asia, the US also has security partnerships with Japan, South Korea, Australia, and the Philippines. These alliances mean that America is not acting alone. It has the support of partners who share intelligence, train together, and coordinate strategies for collective defense.
Technology is also central to U.S. dominance. Beyond planes and ships, the U.S. invests heavily in cyber defense, artificial intelligence, and space programs. The creation of the U.S. Space Force in 2019 highlights how seriously America takes the future of warfare. Satellites are vital for communication, navigation, and surveillance, and controlling space gives a country a significant advantage. By developing advanced tools in these areas, the U.S. hopes to stay ahead of any competitor, including China.
Of course, maintaining such a powerful military also comes with challenges. The cost is enormous, and some critics argue that the US spends too much on defense compared to other priorities like healthcare or education. Others say that global commitments stretch the US too thin, making it difficult to focus on one region. Still, despite these criticisms, most experts agree that the US military remains unmatched in its global reach and its ability to coordinate large-scale operations across land, sea, air, and now even space.
Yes, and another interesting point is that America's military power is not just about weapons and technology. It is also about training and experience. U.S. forces have been involved in many conflicts over the past decades, from the Gulf War to Afghanistan and Iraq. While these wars have been controversial, they have also given American soldiers, pilots, and commanders real-world experience. This experience shapes strategy and ensures that the U.S. military remains flexible and capable of adapting to new challenges.
So when we look at the United States today, we see a country that still holds the top position in terms of military power. Its massive budget, advanced technology, global network of bases, nuclear capabilities, and strong alliances all combine to create a unique level of dominance. But at the same time, this dominance is being challenged more and more by China, which has been rising quickly in the past 2 decades. In our next section, we will turn our attention to China's military rise and how it is changing the global balance.
So far, we have looked at how the United States became and remains the world's strongest military power. But the story of our time would not be complete without examining China's remarkable rise. Over the past 40 years, China has moved from being a relatively poor and underdeveloped country to the world's second-largest economy. This economic growth has provided the foundation for a massive modernization of its armed forces. China's military today looks very different from what it was even 2 decades ago.
That's absolutely true. For much of the 20th century, China's military strength relied mainly on manpower. It had millions of soldiers, but they were often poorly equipped and lacked advanced technology. However, starting in the 1990s and especially after the 2000s, China began to shift its strategy. Instead of focusing only on size, it aimed for quality. It invested heavily in modern weapons, training, and technology. Today, China's People's Liberation Army, often called the PLA, is considered one of the most rapidly advancing military forces in the world.
One key factor in this rise has been defense spending. China now has the second-largest defense budget in the world, behind only the United States. Each year, it increases its spending by billions of dollars. This money goes into building advanced ships, fighter jets, missile systems, and cyber capabilities. While it still spends less than the US, the focus of its investments is very strategic. China aims to strengthen areas where it can directly challenge American advantages, especially in the Asia-Pacific region.
Yes, and the Navy is a good example. China has developed one of the largest navies in terms of ship numbers. It has built modern destroyers, submarines, and even its own aircraft carriers. These carriers are not yet as advanced as America's, but they show China's determination to expand its reach beyond its coast. The Navy plays a critical role in the South China Sea, where China has built artificial islands and military bases. This allows China to extend its influence and strengthen its territorial claims in the region.
Another area where China has advanced rapidly is missile technology. China has developed long-range precision missiles that can target aircraft carriers, bases, and even satellites. These are sometimes called carrier killers because they are designed to threaten one of America's biggest advantages, its naval power. By investing in these kinds of weapons, China hopes to discourage the US from operating too close to its shores. In military terms, this strategy is known as anti-access or area denial, and it has become central to China's defense doctrine.
And let's not forget about the Air Force. The PLA Air Force has introduced modern fighter jets like the J-20 stealth aircraft, which is designed to compete with advanced US planes like the F-22 and F-35. China has also improved its drone technology, using unmanned aerial vehicles for both surveillance and combat. Combined with modern radar and air defense systems, these improvements have made China's skies much more secure and challenging for potential rivals to operate in.
Cyber warfare is another area where China is putting significant effort. Many experts believe that future wars will not only be fought with tanks and planes, but also with computers and digital networks. China has built strong cyber capabilities, including the ability to defend its own systems and potentially disrupt those of its rivals. This gives China an additional tool that can be used in both peace and conflict. Cyber power is hard to measure, but most analysts agree that China is among the leaders in this domain.
Space is also becoming part of China's military ambitions. In recent years, China has launched satellites, tested anti-satellite weapons, and developed space exploration programs. While these efforts are often described as peaceful, they also have military implications. Satellites are vital for communication, navigation, and surveillance, so having the ability to protect or even disable satellites gives China new levels of influence. It also reflects China's long-term vision of being a leader not just on Earth, but beyond it as well.
Of course, China's rise is not only about technology and weapons, it is also about strategy. China sees itself as protecting its national sovereignty and ensuring that no foreign power can threaten its security. From Beijing's perspective, the modernization of the PLA is a natural step for a country of its size and importance. At the same time, it wants to assert influence in its region, especially in areas like the South China Sea and Taiwan. For China, military power is closely tied to its broader goal of national rejuvenation.
That's an important point, Adam. While some outside observers see China's rise as a threat, inside China, it is often seen as a matter of pride and security. The Chinese government presents military modernization as a way to overcome a century of humiliation when foreign powers dominated China. For many citizens, having a modern, capable military is part of regaining dignity and respect in the international system. So, the rise of China's military is not just a technical issue, it is also deeply connected to history, identity, and politics.
Still, challenges remain. Even though China has made huge progress, it is not yet at the level of the United States in many areas. Its global reach is still limited compared to America's worldwide bases. Its aircraft carriers, while impressive, are fewer and less advanced than those of the U.S. And while its budget is large, it is still only about a third of America's. So, while China is rising quickly, it still has some distance to go before it can match the U.S. in every category.
Exactly. But what makes China's rise so significant is the speed of its progress. In just a few decades, it has moved from a regional power to a near-peer competitor of the United States. That pace of change is what worries many policymakers around the world. If China continues to grow its economy and invest heavily in its military, the balance of power in Asia, and perhaps even globally, could shift in the future. This is why so many analysts and governments are paying close attention to China's military rise.
So, to wrap up this section, we can say that China's military rise is one of the most important developments in international politics today. It reflects not only the country's economic strength, but also its ambition to play a larger role on the world stage. Whether this rise leads to cooperation, competition, or conflict with the United States is still an open question. But one thing is clear. The story of the 21st century cannot be told without looking closely at how China's military is evolving.
And that sets us up perfectly for the next part of our discussion. In the following section, we will explore the economic foundations of military power. After all, both the United States and China rely on their economies to support their defense spending and technological advances. Understanding the connection between economic growth and military strength will help us see how this competition might develop in the years to come.
In this section, Julia, we are going to explore a crucial element behind military strength: the economy. Military power is not only about tanks, jets, or ships, it is also about money. A strong economy allows a country to invest in advanced technology, maintain personnel, build bases, and innovate weapons systems. Without a solid economic base, even the largest military will struggle to sustain operations. The United States is a perfect example of how economic strength supports long-term military dominance.
Absolutely, Adam. The US economy has long been the engine of its defense capabilities. With a GDP of over $35 trillion today, America can afford to invest heavily in defense. Every year, hundreds of billions of dollars are allocated to research, development, and modernization of the armed forces. This includes cutting-edge fighter jets, aircraft carriers, missile systems, satellites, and cyber warfare capabilities. Without the economic resources to fund these programs, the US military could not maintain its global presence or technological edge.
And it's not just the size of the economy, Julia, but also its structure. The U.S. has a diversified economy with technology, finance, manufacturing, and energy sectors all contributing to its wealth. This diversity makes defense spending more sustainable. Even if one sector slows down, the country can rely on others to keep funding its military. Additionally, America has a strong system of taxation and public debt management that allows it to finance long-term projects. This economic stability directly translates into consistent and reliable military power.
On the other hand, we have China, whose military rise has been fueled by rapid economic growth over the last 4 decades. In the 1980s, China's GDP was a fraction of the US, but through reforms, trade liberalization, and industrialization, the country became the second-largest economy in the world. This growth has provided China with resources to expand its military significantly. More money allows for investment in modern ships, missiles, fighter jets, cyber technology, and infrastructure, all crucial elements of national defense.
That's right. China's strategy has been to gradually increase its military spending while simultaneously modernizing its economy. Unlike the United States, China has focused on efficiency and strategic allocation of resources. Every year, a significant portion of its economic growth is invested into defense modernization programs. The ability to channel economic growth directly into military development has allowed China to close the gap with the U.S. in key areas, especially in the Asia-Pacific region.
But there are challenges for both countries, Adam. For the United States, the main challenge is sustainability. Maintaining a global military presence costs enormous amounts of money. Expensive conflicts, technological development, and global deployments put pressure on the budget. Economic recessions or financial crises can limit the ability to spend. Even though the US economy is large, balancing military spending with domestic priorities like healthcare, education, and infrastructure is always a delicate task.
China also faces challenges. While its economy has grown impressively, it still has limits. High population demands, regional disparities, and slowing growth in recent years could affect its ability to sustain long-term military expansion. Additionally, China depends heavily on international trade and global supply chains for technology, rare earth minerals, and energy. Any disruption to these economic channels could impact its military development. So, economic growth is necessary, but not always sufficient to maintain a rising military power indefinitely.
Another important aspect is the link between trade, technology, and security. Both countries rely on global trade networks to acquire resources, technology, and equipment. The United States imports certain high-tech components and energy sources, while China imports advanced technology and rare materials for its industry and military. Control over trade routes, protection of shipping lanes, and access to international markets are directly connected to military strategy. In other words, economics and military power are intertwined.
Trade and technology also affect innovation. The United States invests heavily in research and development, allowing the military to gain new capabilities such as hypersonic missiles, artificial intelligence, and cyber defense. China has made innovation a priority as well, both through domestic development and strategic partnerships or acquisitions. The economic capacity to fund these programs ensures that both countries remain competitive, not just in quantity of weapons, but also in quality and technological sophistication.
So, listeners, when we look at military power today, it is impossible to separate it from economics. The United States leverages its massive and diverse economy to maintain global dominance. China uses its rapid economic growth to modernize and expand its military capabilities strategically. Both countries face challenges in sustaining this long-term competition, and the global trade system, technology access, and economic stability all play a vital role in shaping the future of their rivalry.
In summary, the foundation of military power is deeply economic. Without the resources to fund development, training, and technological advancement, a nation cannot maintain a credible defense. The United States and China both understand this reality, which is why their economic strategies are closely tied to their military ambitions. In the next section, we will explore their strategic goals and military doctrines, which are built upon these very economic foundations. In this section, Julia, we are going to explore strategic goals and military doctrines, which explain not only what countries have, but why they have it. Military power alone does not determine outcomes. Strategy and doctrine guide how that power is used. For the United States, the primary goal has historically been global influence and deterrence. Its doctrine focuses on protecting allies, maintaining freedom of navigation, and projecting power to respond to crises anywhere in the world.
Exactly, Adam. U.S. military doctrine emphasizes flexibility and global reach. The U.S. operates on the principle of being able to respond quickly to threats across the globe, whether in Europe, the Middle East, Africa, or Asia. This requires a combination of advanced technology, overseas bases, and strong alliances. The concept of deterrence is central. By showing strength, the U.S. aims to prevent conflicts before they begin. This doctrine is supported by nuclear capabilities, conventional forces, and strategic planning for multiple scenarios.
The U.S. also places emphasis on joint operations, meaning that its Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, and space and cyber forces work together seamlessly. This integration is critical in modern warfare, where battles can involve air, land, sea, cyber, and space simultaneously. It allows the U.S. to maintain superiority in multiple domains. Additionally, the doctrine often involves demonstrating presence through training exercises, freedom of navigation operations, and participation in multinational alliances, which reassures allies and signals strength to competitors.
China's approach, by contrast, is often described as regional defense with strategic ambition. China's doctrine prioritizes protecting its borders, asserting control in areas it considers sovereign, and preventing foreign interference. While historically focused on mainland defense, China has expanded its strategy to include regional projection, especially in the South China Sea and around Taiwan. This approach includes anti-access and area denial tactics designed to make it costly for any adversary to operate near Chinese territory.
Another key element of China's doctrine is asymmetric warfare. Rather than trying to match the U.S. ship for ship or plane for plane, China invests in technologies that can exploit vulnerabilities in American systems. This includes long-range precision missiles, cyber capabilities, advanced submarines, and anti-satellite weapons. The goal is not necessarily to defeat the U.S. in a direct confrontation, but to challenge its dominance in specific regions and create deterrence that protects Chinese interests.
Both countries also emphasize nuclear deterrence, though in slightly different ways. The US maintains a nuclear triad, capable of launching nuclear weapons from land, sea, and air, ensuring a second strike capability. China's nuclear arsenal is smaller, but strategically focused on survivability and the ability to deter a major attack. Nuclear doctrine for both nations is designed to prevent large-scale conflict by making the consequences of escalation extremely high. This demonstrates how strategy and doctrine can shape military decisions beyond conventional forces.
Another interesting aspect is the role of technology and innovation in doctrine. For the U.S., military doctrine increasingly integrates cyber warfare, artificial intelligence, and space operations. These tools are essential for modern command and control, surveillance, and precision strikes. China has also incorporated technology into its doctrine, focusing on emerging fields like artificial intelligence, hypersonic missiles, and space-based reconnaissance. Both countries recognize that future conflicts may be determined as much by technology as by traditional forces.
Geography also plays a role in shaping doctrine. The US, with global interests, designs forces to operate across oceans and continents, ensuring flexibility and rapid deployment. China's doctrine is more regionally focused, but has strategic ambitions beyond its borders. By controlling its near seas and developing capabilities for power projection, China can influence regional politics, protect trade routes, and challenge US presence in Asia. Geography and strategy together help explain how each military organizes and prioritizes its forces.
In addition, both countries conduct regular strategic assessments and war games. The U.S. evaluates potential scenarios worldwide, testing how forces could respond to conflicts in multiple theaters simultaneously. China conducts similar planning, especially regarding Taiwan, the South China Sea, and potential conflicts with regional actors. These exercises allow both nations to refine their doctrine, anticipate challenges, and ensure readiness for a range of possible contingencies, emphasizing the practical application of strategy.
Finally, strategic goals are closely tied to political objectives. For the United States, maintaining alliances, ensuring global trade security, and preserving a liberal international order remain core motivations. For China, protecting sovereignty, expanding influence, and strengthening its regional position are primary drivers. Both nations design their doctrines to align military capabilities with political goals. Understanding this connection between strategy, doctrine, and national objectives is essential to seeing why military competition is more than just numbers. It is a reflection of national ambition and planning.
In conclusion, Julia, military doctrine and strategic goals provide the lens through which we can understand military power. While the U.S. emphasizes global reach, alliance protection, and integrated joint operations, China focuses on regional defense, asymmetric capabilities, and strategic deterrence. Both approaches are shaped by history, geography, and economic resources, and both play a key role in the ongoing competition between these two global powers. The South China Sea is one of the most strategically important and contested regions in the world. It is rich in natural resources like oil and gas, has abundant fishing grounds, and serves as a critical shipping route for global trade. Approximately one-third of all maritime trade passes through these waters, making it a vital artery for the global economy. Because multiple countries claim overlapping areas, it has become a hotspot for tensions, disputes, and military activity.
China has made its presence in the South China Sea highly visible. Over the past decade, it has constructed artificial islands equipped with military installations, including radar stations, airstrips, and missile systems. These islands allow China to project power farther from its coastline and monitor naval activity in a region where many other countries have competing claims. The development of these facilities signals China's ambition to strengthen regional influence and secure what it views as critical national interests.
In response, the United States regularly conducts naval patrols and freedom of navigation operations. These missions involve sending warships, aircraft, and submarines into the disputed waters to assert that the sea lanes are international and open to all nations. Washington emphasizes that no country has the right to control these routes unilaterally. These operations demonstrate U.S. commitment to its allies, regional stability, and the principle of open seas, while also signaling to China that any attempt to monopolize the area may face challenges.
Neighboring countries in the region have varied reactions to this tension. Nations like the Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, and Brunei have territorial claims in the South China Sea and are often wary of China's military presence. Some of these countries welcome U.S. involvement as a balancing force, while others try to manage relations carefully to avoid direct confrontation. The presence of multiple actors, combined with national pride and economic stakes, makes the South China Sea one of the most complex and sensitive geopolitical zones in the world.
Beyond territorial disputes, the South China Sea is strategically important for military operations. For China, controlling key points in this area allows monitoring of naval movements, protection of trade routes, and projection of power into the broader Asia-Pacific region. For the U.S., patrolling the sea ensures freedom of navigation, protects allies, and maintains a balance of power that discourages any single country from dominating the region. Both countries view the South China Sea as essential to their strategic goals.
Another key issue is the development of advanced military technology in the region. China's artificial islands have been equipped with anti-ship missiles, radar systems, and air defense capabilities, creating what some analysts call a fortress. The U.S. in turn uses satellite surveillance reconnaissance aircraft and advanced naval vessels to monitor these installations. This technological competition adds another layer of complexity as both countries seek to maintain an advantage without triggering open conflict.
Trade is also a central factor. The South China Sea is a vital commercial corridor for energy supplies, raw materials, and goods between Asia, Europe, and the Middle East. Any disruption could affect global markets, making the region not only a military concern but also an economic one. This interconnection of trade, military presence, and strategic influence is why nations outside the region, including European countries, pay close attention to developments here.
Furthermore, regional alliances play a role in shaping the dynamics of the South China Sea. Countries like Japan and Australia cooperate closely with the United States in joint naval exercises and intelligence sharing. These partnerships strengthen the ability of allies to respond to potential conflicts and signal that challenges to international norms will be observed and potentially countered. It also demonstrates that military competition in this area is not just bilateral, but involves a network of regional and global stakeholders.
While the South China Sea remains a hotspot, both the U.S. and China manage tensions carefully to avoid direct military confrontation. Diplomatic channels, negotiations, and multilateral discussions are used alongside military posturing. Each side wants to advance strategic goals without triggering a larger conflict. This delicate balance reflects the broader nature of their competition. It is about influence, deterrence, and positioning as much as it is about actual conflict.
In conclusion, the South China Sea exemplifies why the Asia-Pacific region is central to US-China military competition. China's artificial islands and regional assertiveness, US freedom of navigation operations, the concerns of neighboring countries, and the importance of trade and technology all combine to create a highly sensitive and strategically critical area. Understanding these dynamics is key to grasping the broader picture of military competition in the 21st century.
Technology has become one of the most decisive factors in modern military competition. Today, it is no longer enough to have large armies, fleets, or conventional weapons. Cybersecurity, space operations, and artificial intelligence are increasingly critical in defining a nation's military strength. Cyber capabilities allow countries to defend their own networks and potentially disrupt an opponent's communication, infrastructure, and command systems. Space provides surveillance, navigation, and communication advantages, while artificial intelligence accelerates decision-making, targeting, and autonomous systems.
The United States has consistently invested heavily in high-tech military programs. Its research and development budget for defense includes advanced fighter jets, hypersonic missiles, drones, artificial intelligence applications, and cyber defense initiatives. Space operations have become a formal part of the US military structure with the establishment of the Space Force. These investments allow the US to maintain global operational reach and to integrate technology across multiple military domains, ensuring that it can respond effectively in conventional, cyber, and space-based conflicts.
Meanwhile, China has also prioritized high-tech capabilities as part of its military modernization. The People's Liberation Army has developed advanced drones for reconnaissance and combat, hypersonic missiles that can travel at extraordinary speeds, and robust cyber operations for both defense and offense. China's approach often focuses on asymmetric strategies, using technology to challenge areas where the United States traditionally has advantages, particularly in regional settings such as the South China Sea or Taiwan Strait. These innovations aim to deter adversaries and strengthen China's strategic influence.
One of the most significant areas of competition is cyber warfare. Both the US and China recognize that future conflicts may be fought largely in cyberspace. Cyber attacks can disrupt military communications, critical infrastructure, and even financial systems. This form of warfare is difficult to detect and control, making it both a powerful tool and a source of risk. Nations invest heavily in defensive systems to protect against cyber threats while simultaneously developing offensive capabilities to gain an edge during conflict.
Space is another domain of strategic importance. Satellites support navigation, communication, reconnaissance, and missile tracking. Disabling an opponent's satellites could significantly degrade their military effectiveness. The U.S. has established advanced satellite networks and created the Space Force to ensure dominance in this domain. China, in turn, has tested anti-satellite weapons, launched reconnaissance satellites, and integrated space technology into its military strategy. Both countries see space not just as an advantage, but as a potential battleground for future conflicts.
Artificial intelligence is also transforming military operations. AI allows faster analysis of large datasets, improves targeting accuracy, and can even automate decision-making in combat scenarios. The US military is exploring AI for autonomous vehicles, battlefield simulations, and logistics optimization. China is pursuing similar applications, integrating AI with drones, missiles, and cyber systems. The development of AI-driven military tools raises ethical questions and concerns about stability, especially if rapid automated decisions occur in high-pressure situations.
Hypersonic weapons represent another emerging threat. These missiles travel at speeds greater than 5 times the speed of sound, making them extremely difficult to intercept. Both the US and China are developing hypersonic systems to improve deterrence and strike capabilities. While these weapons enhance military effectiveness, they also increase the risk of miscalculations. Their speed and destructive potential could escalate conflicts before diplomatic solutions have a chance, which makes them a critical element in modern strategic planning.
The future of warfare is therefore closely tied to technology. Cybersecurity, space capabilities, artificial intelligence, drones, and hypersonic systems are no longer secondary concerns. They are central to national defense. Both the United States and China recognize that leadership in these areas will shape not only regional dominance, but global military influence. At the same time, reliance on these technologies introduces new vulnerabilities, from hacking and cyber attacks to accidental escalations in automated systems.
Emerging technologies also impact alliances and global security. Nations that cannot keep pace with advanced systems may rely more heavily on allies for protection or seek partnerships to gain access to technology. This interconnectedness means that technological advancements in one country can affect military balances worldwide. Both the US and China are aware that their investments in high-tech capabilities are strategic, long-term moves that will influence not only their own security, but also that of the entire international system.
In conclusion, technological innovation has become a defining factor in the military competition between the United States and China. Investment in high-tech weapons, space programs, cyber defense, AI, and hypersonic capabilities is transforming how nations prepare for conflict. While these advances provide strategic advantages, they also introduce new risks, including the potential for miscalculation, escalation, and unforeseen consequences. The future of military power will depend as much on technology as on traditional forces, making this an essential area of observation.
The US-China rivalry is not just a bilateral matter. It has wide-reaching implications for countries across the globe. Nations in Europe, Asia, and the developing world watch the competition closely because it affects trade, security, and regional stability. For European countries, the rivalry presents both opportunities and challenges. On one hand, Europe can benefit from maintaining ties with both powers, but it also must navigate tensions in trade and security policy. Balancing these interests requires careful diplomacy and long-term planning.
In Asia, the situation is even more complex. Countries like Japan, South Korea, and Australia maintain strong alliances with the United States, particularly in defense and security. At the same time, they share deep economic ties with China, which makes outright confrontation difficult. Developing nations in Southeast Asia and South Asia often try to maintain neutrality, avoiding taking sides while benefiting from trade with both countries. The strategic positioning of these nations is crucial, as they lie at the intersection of US and Chinese influence.
Alliances play a central role in how the world responds to US-China competition. NATO, for example, ensures collective defense among European countries, and although it was originally focused on Europe, NATO increasingly considers global security threats, including those associated with China's rise. In the Asia-Pacific region, the Quad Alliance, which includes the United States, Japan, Australia, and India, focuses on maritime security, counterterrorism, and strategic cooperation. These alliances create a network of support for like-minded nations and help maintain regional balances of power.
Smaller countries face difficult choices. Many of them depend on both the US and China for trade investment and security guarantees. For example, Southeast Asian nations have disputes with China in the South China Sea, but rely on Chinese investment for infrastructure projects. At the same time, they seek US partnerships to maintain a security balance. These countries often employ careful diplomacy, participating in multilateral forums and emphasizing neutrality, while seeking to avoid alienating either major power.
International organizations also play a critical role in shaping global reactions. The United Nations, World Trade Organization, and other institutions provide forums for discussion, negotiation, and dispute resolution. Both the United States and China engage with these organizations to promote their interests and influence international norms. Smaller countries often use these platforms to ensure their voices are heard, mediate tensions, and advocate for rules that protect their sovereignty and economic rights.
In Europe, countries closely monitor US-China interactions because they influence trade and security policies. The European Union seeks to maintain a balance, preserving strong economic ties with China, while ensuring strategic alignment with the United States on issues like cybersecurity, climate change, and regional stability. Europe's response often emphasizes diplomacy and multilateral solutions, reflecting both economic interdependence and security concerns in a world shaped by two major powers.
Asia is more directly impacted by the rivalry. Countries like Japan and South Korea, with security alliances tied to the US, often align with Washington on military and strategic matters. However, economic dependency on China requires nuanced approaches to avoid conflict. India, part of the Quad, similarly engages in partnerships that counterbalance Chinese influence while maintaining trade relations. Smaller nations, especially in Southeast Asia, must continuously navigate competing pressures from both powers, carefully assessing risk, opportunity, and security needs.
The rivalry also affects developing countries outside Asia and Europe. African, Latin American, and Middle Eastern nations benefit from investment and trade with both the US and China. China's Belt and Road Initiative, for example, has created infrastructure projects across Asia, Africa, and Europe, enhancing connectivity but also creating strategic influence. The United States engages in diplomatic, economic, and security initiatives to maintain influence in these regions, emphasizing transparent governance, security cooperation, and democratic norms.
Alliances such as NATO and Quad, combined with informal partnerships, create a complex network of influence. These structures provide deterrence against unilateral actions, reassure allies, and coordinate responses to potential conflicts. However, reliance on alliances also requires trust, interoperability, and shared strategic objectives. Differences in priorities among allies can sometimes complicate responses, making diplomacy and multilateral coordination crucial components of global strategy.
In conclusion, global reactions to the US-China rivalry are shaped by a mix of economics, security, and diplomacy. Countries in Europe, Asia, and the developing world must navigate competing pressures, maintain alliances, and engage in multilateral institutions like the United Nations. Smaller nations employ careful balancing strategies to preserve sovereignty while benefiting from the economic and security opportunities offered by both powers. This global perspective underscores that the US-China competition is not only regional, but truly worldwide in its impact.
As we reach the final section of today's discussion, it is important to summarize the key points of our conversation. We explored the economic foundations of military power, noting how the United States' large and diversified economy supports its global defense spending, while China's rapid growth fuels modernization and strategic expansion. We examined strategic goals and military doctrines, showing how each nation aligns its military capabilities with regional or global ambitions.
We also looked closely at the Asia-Pacific and the South China Sea, understanding why this region has become a hotspot. China's artificial islands, the US freedom of navigation operations, and the concerns of neighboring countries illustrate the delicate balance of power. Technology and future warfare are another critical element, with both nations investing heavily in AI, hypersonic missiles, drones, cyber operations, and space capabilities. These advancements shape the nature of modern conflict while introducing new risks.
Global reactions were equally important to consider. Europe, Asia, and developing countries navigate the US-China rivalry carefully, balancing economic and security interests. Alliances like NATO, Quad, and informal partnerships provide strategic stability, while multilateral institutions such as the United Nations give smaller nations platforms to voice concerns and mediate tensions. All of this demonstrates that military competition extends far beyond bilateral relations.
A central theme of our discussion is that competition does not always mean conflict. Military rivalries, technological advancements, and geopolitical maneuvering are often intended to deter aggression, maintain balance, or protect national interests. Both the United States and China have reasons to avoid direct confrontation, understanding that the consequences of open conflict could be catastrophic for both nations and for the global community.
Cooperation is also possible even amid rivalry. Climate change, trade agreements, regional stability, global health, and counterterrorism are areas where both nations share interests. Dialogue, joint initiatives, and participation in international organizations can create opportunities for collaboration. While rivalry exists in military and strategic domains, diplomacy and mutual engagement offer pathways to mitigate risks and build confidence between these global powers.
For listeners, it is useful to reflect on the complexity of this competition. It is not a simple story of good versus bad, or winner versus loser. Economic, technological, military, and diplomatic factors all interplay to shape outcomes. Understanding these dimensions helps us appreciate why global security, trade stability, and international cooperation require careful consideration and thoughtful action from all nations.
In conclusion, the US-China military and technological competition is multidimensional. It is shaped by economic capacity, strategic doctrines, regional disputes, emerging technologies, and global reactions. Yet competition does not inevitably lead to war. History has shown that dialogue, diplomacy, and carefully managed alliances can prevent escalation and even foster collaboration on shared global challenges.
As we end today's podcast, we encourage our listeners to think critically about these issues. Consider how economic power, technology, alliances, and diplomacy influence global stability. Reflect on the possibilities for cooperation, even in competitive environments. By understanding the nuances of international relations, we can better appreciate the challenges and opportunities that define the 21st century world.
Thank you for joining us on the English Globe. We hope this discussion has provided you with a clearer understanding of the US-China rivalry, its global implications, and the ways nations can navigate this complex landscape. Remember, awareness and informed reflection are key to interpreting world events thoughtfully.
Please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share your opinions in the comments. Tell us where you are listening from and what you think about the US-China competition. Your engagement helps us continue creating in-depth discussions like this one, and it allows you to be part of a global conversation on important international topics.
Until next time, keep learning, stay curious, and remember that understanding the world is the first step toward shaping it wisely.